click that one too. So let me get to Instagram. Where the heck did you go? Go live. I got Instagram here. Come on. Connect to the service. Go live. There we are. So we're on Instagram too. See? How's that?
Mm-hmm.
So we're on Instagram live, and we should be live to our friends over here to Facebook, and then we got YouTube. So Yahoo for us. Look at us go. You think we might even know what we're doing after a month or two, huh?
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, goodness gracious. Plus, I figured out this is even going to be recorded. So good, look how good we are. We're you'd think we might even know what we're doing at this point in time. I'm not sure, but here we go. There we are. There we go. Hey, there's my buddy. And we've just become good. We have really become internet friends. How we never pounded flesh together. Isn't that something? So, but I'm George, and here with my buddy John, and we're going to go through what is we believe has changed our lives, and we've seen it change other people's lives. And we want to share this with you in the hopes that you'll recognize yourself and one of the two of us and or our friends. We're going to go through the protocol that we're following. And if you're watching this, there's a good reason that you are. One is you have questions as if you have any hope. And two, does this stuff really work? And is there a solution? And three, I guess there would be is that, well, what I'm doing isn't working. And you'd like to see some alternatives. And so we're going to look at that in a lot of different ways. So I'm in Central Illinois, just so you guys have a grasp. And my buddy John is down there in the great state of what? Insanity. I mean, Texas. So we're going to have some fun. And this coffee cup kind of tells a story about the whole deal, isn't it? Is that some days you just feel like that, right? And some days you feel like a nut, and sometimes
most every day.
Most every day. So really what we're going to look at is per proposition or question to you guys is there a need? Is there a need for what we're going to be talking about? And we're dealing with metabolic health and a lot of issues. Is there a need, and is the need increasing? And look around. I'm looking at this from a 70-year perspective. For 30 years, there was none of this, literally none of this. The last 40 years, which is John's lifetime and your lifetime, it's growing increasingly. So is there a solution? It probably is. I mean, there's all kinds of drugs you could take and 1,000 different programs like Diet Whack-A-Mole that have choices that you could have. But is there a natural solution? Is there hope? And if there is there proven solution? Is there proof? Is there guaranteed? And is it affordable? So that's kind of what we're going our agenda here over the next, we'll try to rip through about 45 minutes, maybe 60. So really, this is kind of the tell with all, isn't it, John?
Yes, it is. It's pretty good. So right here, this is like your about your carogenic acid T and all that kind of stuff. 93% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, and they don't realize it. I mean, they follow the advice of like doctors, nutritionists, dietitians, even personal trainers. They follow their advice, and they're not realizing that their advice is teaching them how they're not metabolically healthy. I mean, I did it for 25 years. I mean, I used to be a college athlete. I mean, like with you, George, being a swim coach for colleges and all that. But for myself, I trained with some not professional athletes. I trained with some good personal trainers and some good college strength coaches and stuff like that, teaching me how to get stronger and bigger, so that way I can eventually make it to the NFL and play ball in the NFL. And I was doing good until my diabetes kicked in, not realizing the way that I was being taught to lift and to eat and to do this was causing my metabolic states to tank and get worse. And that is what developed my type 2 diabetes. Now, back when I got diagnosed in 2000, I was told it was by genetics because it runs on both sides of my family. My mom's side has it. My dad's side had it. The only person on my dad's side that had it that I was aware of at that time was my grandfather. but he unfortunately passed away from cardiac disease in 1986, or sorry, 1988. My brother's one that was born in 86 and was stillborn. That's why I get him confused. Now, on my mom's side of the family, my grandmother at that time is the only one that had diabetes, and she's still currently alive. But my mom, she just recently got diagnosed with prediabetes, just recently. Now, granted, I got diagnosed with type 2 25 years ago. So if it's genetic, how did it skip my mom and go right to me? Now, a lot of people blame, oh, it's because, diet this, diet that. Granted, I grew up eating the same foods my mom did. So if it was diet, or like they say it was, then why didn't she get it before I did? Or why did I get it before she did, I should say. Now, granted, diet was a big portion of it, yes. That's because I didn't realize what I know now. But I know George has got the real good skinny on how food has changed over the years. He knows that a lot better than I do because this is literally twice my age, and I'm not mean that in a bad way.
And that is really true. And so, guys, the question is there a problem? Yeah, the number one problem in the world is all the deaths that we have are metabolic related. I mean, we've got cardiovascular, we've got Alzheimer's, we have diabetes, we got all these things. So we're not bashing doctors, we're not bashing drugs because it's a great thing we have. I mean, like if we, you need chemical drugs, right? You do need them, and they do cure some things. I mean, syphilis, gonorrhea, that kills it, bacteria. Those guys are done. You get it, shot, done, go. The question is, though, for a lot of the metabolic issues, high blood pressure, if you're taking something for high blood pressure, does it get rid of it or does it just hide it? So we're going to talk.
That's all the medications really do is mask it and hide it. They don't. There's very seldom few that actually cure something like antibiotics. They take care of the infection.
Yeah. So what John and I want to have is that we want you to have too much health at the end of your life. We want you to have too much health at the end of your life, not too much life at the end of your health.
Right.
Because if there's too much month at the end of the money, you be broken, you be in pain. Guys, if there's too much life at the end of your health, you're going to be what? Broke and in pain. We want you to go out happy and strong. Yahoo! Not, oh my goodness, as a burden. So really what we're talking about is food isn't the same anymore. That's just really what John's talking about. I mean, when I was raised, when I grew up, we didn't have such thing as grass-fed beef. It was just beef. I mean, it was beef. It wasn't grass-fed beef. It was beef. And milk. John, you're too young, but I remember doing the pull and the.
Yeah, my milk growing up was from a glass container or a plastic jug.
Probably plastic.
Not straight from the udder.
I'm telling you what, having a milk fight. Anyway, so that's one other thing. Anyway,
right.
So but and then eggs. Good gravy, Mother Mercy. You go to the store and there's what? Free range eggs and pasture-raised eggs and then fake eggs. Yeah, fake eggs. I mean, we got, you knew if you were getting an egg because you're getting scratched. I mean, they were the real eggs, right? And they had a great color and they were rich and they're yummy. So food has changed. And real quick, guys, the history of food is just, it's insane because it combines the whole agricultural, industrial, pharmaceutical, media conglomeration for profit. First off, what happened was, they moved fiber out of your food. Now, the reason the fiber was moved was to extend the shelf life for military food, MREs. So there's a longer shelf life, you take the fiber out. Okay, good idea. But that was one thing. But today, I'm just going to tell you, cattle in the feedlot get more fiber and plant fiber than your children do, than you do on a daily basis. Fiber is important. It's planned in the feedlot. Think about that for half a second. And if it's not in your food, what are they doing? They took it out and they put it in what? Starches, Now, I'm just going to jump right over to another favorite topic is how fat is your cat? How fat is your dog? What are they getting fed? The same kind of grain starches that your children are getting, that you're getting. That's fiber's been taken out. Then another thing that happened was, well, back in the day, there was a candlestick maker. Sounds like nursery rhyme, right? A candlestick maker and a soap manufacturer. Well, those two guys happened to be Procter and Gamble. And the one was from Scotland and one was from England, like that over there. And they came to America, like everybody else was back in the day. And they happened to meet. That's why there's Procter and Gamble. But how did they meet? John, you know what? They married sisters in Cincinnati.
Yep, Procter and Gamble. Yep.
Yeah. Now we have Procter and Gamble. Now, what did they do? Well, they were using cottonseed oil, okay, for manufacturing, because what happened was that cottonseed oil was a toxic byproduct, and they needed, it was a waste, and it was used for machinery. It was used for lighting oil lamps and things because blubber was going away. Well, what they did was, because they're business guys, there's that they took that with the hydrolyzation. Now, the hydrolyzation is when you take hydrogen and you inject it into a liquid to make it solid. Okay. Now they took cottonseed oil, hydrolyzed it, and created something in a canister that your mom might have used, but definitely your grandmother and great grandmother used for baking. And it had a longer shelf life than lard and butter.
Yep, shortening.
Exactly, a shortening called Crisco. And you know what? How they marketed Crisco? They said it's digestible. It's digestible. What kind of an excuse is that? When we were kids, one bossy neighbor lady called my mom up because we were out in the ditch. I'm sure you never did this, John, but we were out in the ditch and we were having mud pies. We were making mud pies. And,
I did that.
And the neighbor called late. My mom and said, your kids are out making mud pies. And my mom goes, well, as long as I spit out the rocks. So, right. But the whole thing was that it had shelf life. And so they went to the American Heart Association with this Crisco. And they said, here's $1.7 million in a donation. Now that's equal to $30 to $40 million today. And do you know what came out from the American Heart Association?
That Crisco is good for you.
Yeah, it's heart healthy. Yeah. So now it's gluten slider. Have you ever? I don't know if you've ever had it on a spoon, but it takes like industrial strength cleaner to get it off. So now we have the beginning of oils, synthetic oils, even called plant oils, because it was cottonseed, right? Well, what happens is now you have the seed oils. So now we took the fiber out. Now we can start using these oils because fat, butter, lard makes you fat. We have to demonize something to replace it. You got to get this gone, and you convince the public by what? Advertising media that this is better than that. Oh, of course it is, right? And so that goes in this. We have defiberization, we have the seed oils coming about, and then, oh my goodness gracious, there's this huge industry called the tobacco industry.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what did the tobacco guys do? They got people addicted, right? Right? That was, a big thing. It was sexy, and all that kind of good stuff. And it was advertising, and everything like this and all that kind of stuff. Guess what?
And then when they got regulated, that's when they started aspirating sugar in the ground and all that. Yeah.
And that made it more addictive. Now they learned their lessons, the tobacco guys. So what they do? Well, you know what they did? They went and started buying these guys up. They bought these guys up. So we got sugar everywhere. And now the advertising. And John, you were a kid. I know at one time, even though you're 7 foot tall now, at one time you were knee high to the shopping cart. Yep. And what the grocery store was at your eye level?
Kellogg's, and they're great, Frosted-Flakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what happened was there was cartoons. Now you were probably too old to have cartoons, but every Saturday there was cartoons.
No, Saturday cartoons. Yep, I remember those.
Yeah, and they were brought to you by Fig Newtons and Corn Pops and You're darn tootin'. I like Fig Newtons, and they're great. And the Crunch and the Parrot and everybody else, right? Why? Because that's getting you programmed. In fact, in 1917, this guy right here was a physician and a minister, and selling you Kellogg's, decided he'd start a campaign that the most important meal of the day is
your breakfast.
Now, that got you brainwashed that the first thing you did when you popped out of bed after you were fasting all night, follow this, guys, you've been fasting, is that you break your fast with a bowl of whatever, right?
Well, not really to say that's completely wrong. I mean, breakfast really is your important meal, just not when you first wake up in the morning.
Exactly.
When you break your fast.
Exactly. You're going to break your fast. But yeah, I would argue that prior to the popularization of all this, my grandmother, your great grandmother, and those guys, there wasn't nobody large. Were they better at counting calories? Were they better at dealing with carbohydrates? Were they going to the gym more often?
No, they didn't know none of that stuff, really.
No, they had natural fats and beef and real food, right? They had that.
Beef tallow, ghee butter and butter. And
exactly. And so the whole thing is that we started going into this whole mess. And then guess what happened? Well, these guys that are in, and now we're stuck between the two. So we've got the highly processed, addictive, highly palpable foods with these guys waiting in the wings for you to develop the things that they have.
So that's what a lot of people don't understand too, is they think that, okay, the food industry will make this food, not realizing that some of the ingredients in there will cause certain issues in your body. Well, those issues in your body are all favored for pharmaceutical because they have a yum for it, or a treatment. That's the reason why, if you think about it, there's always a pill for a diagnosis, or a shot, or there's always something for a diagnosis of some type of illness or some type of chronic disease or metabolic issue.
And do you know the one that there's a couple things that they haven't found yet? And so they aren't dealing with really the reality of what we're starting to find. And one of the biggest ones is Alzheimer's.
Yep.
There's 400 studies and things, and billions of dollars have been spent to come up with drugs for Alzheimer's, and they haven't successfully done it. But now the research is showing that it, just like type 2 diabetes and others, is reversible. Now, it takes a lot of intervention. It takes a lot of intervention because you don't become Alzheimer's when you're 60 and 70. It's not like one day, I got Alzheimer's.
Right.
No,
you started in your 20s and 30s when, like, I walked in the room and where did I put my keys?
Exactly.
Where did I leave my phone? Where did I leave my book?
Yeah, the symptoms have been there.
There. Yeah.
There's early intervention, early understanding. These things are reversible, preventable, but you know what? We don't have a drug for it yet. So what we have is stuff we can give you to mask it forever. And the whole thing is where we need to eat forever. These guys, we should only need one that's 100% necessary to fix something, not to cover the symptoms. And so when we start looking at these metabolic issues, there's always a pill for this. Think about it this way. You're going to these guys and these guys, you're a prophet. You are just nothing but profit. I would ask you morally, do you think the guys at any of these manufacturers are sitting up there thinking, boy, we are really making the most high quality, safe food that helps prevent disease and keeps people healthy?
No.
How
they can increase their profit shares and sell more food.
Exactly. And so when we get into this, guys, these signs and symptoms are these are signs of the symptoms that the drugs treat. And some of these things, like, and I've had a lot of them. You can see, John. I mean, I had belly fat, and I had, and your skin tells you so much. Dark folds in your skin, these cysts, skin tags. These are outward signs, inflammation. It's your body saying, hey, we got some stuff going on in the inside. And we start looking at that. Those symptoms, those signs create these symptoms. The insulin resistance. So we have high blood pressure, kidney disease, depressions. You've got abnormal menstrual cycles, inflammation, infertility, acne, gout, these liver diseases, obesity, sleep apnea. Those things are all coming from and have been signs and symptoms of what we know as insulin resistance. So if we look at it like a dandelion, if you look at all these symptoms, all these different signs of insulin resistance like a dandelion, you could pull the dandelion, but guess what? It's going to go and grow inside of it, in your body. These things are moving everywhere. So you maybe pull this one, the other ones are still going because you're still eating, you're still spiking your glucose, and you've not gotten to the root cause of the problem. If you want to get rid of all these symptoms, you need to get the root cause. You need to get that whole sucker out of there. You got to get it out. Otherwise, it's still going to be spreading around.
Right.
So what we're talking about is the possibility of the question, insulin resistance. It is the root cause of heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, body fat, dementia, osteoporosis, all these, fatty liver. Kids have non-fatty liver. Think about it. Non-fatty liver. When I was a kid, the only people that had fatty livers were alcoholics.
Right.
And I lived in a Mennonite Hutterite community, so there weren't very many of them out there neither.
Yeah,
but
I grew up in the early 80s, and it was still then too. It was, if you had liver cirrhosis, it was because you're an alcoholic, not because of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Exactly, 100%. PCOS, diabetes, all these things, guys. Insulin resistance. And so if you're, some things for you guys to think about, if you know someone that's always hungry, that drinks most of their calories, they want to lose weight.
Oh, I used to be.
They want to lose weight. They get, what do they get told? What do you get told to lose weight? You're weak. You're not disciplined.
Yeah, you're not disciplined. You got lack of willpower. What else is there? You're not committed. You're not dedicated to your health. I mean, there's so many different phrases that can come up, and fortunately, I can't remember them because I haven't heard them in a while because I quit listening to them in a long time ago.
There you go. Well,
I got to the point.
You got to move more, John. Got to move more and eat less. And then the other guys will say, well, you need to snack all the time to keep your metabolism up.
And they still say that.
Yeah, the uneducated still do. High headaches, migraines, low energy, fatigue, belly fat. These are all signs of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance. So what are our ideas? We're going to tell you guys to F off. I'm going to tell you to F off for free. And what I mean by that is fast, fiber, fats, and the order that you eat your food. So F off.
That's a good one. That's a good one, George.
So what you're going to do is you're going to fast. You've been sleeping. Keep fasting. Your blood gets to reset. Your body gets to reset because you haven't been eating all night, most of us anyway. And so the longer you can wait before you break fast, whatever that time of day is, the more you get to burn your fat. So fast and fiber, my two F's right there, huh?
Now, granted, there's a lot of people that know about the fasting part, but they can't do it because they try to do it and they end up getting hypoglycemia. That's where your sugars drop because you're insulin resistant. That's what that means. If you weren't insulin resistant, you were insulin sensitive, then your insulin would kick in and your blood sugars will stabilize because as your liver pulls body fat, it produces its own glycogen. And when it does its own glycogen, that's what keeps your blood sugar stable. You need 4 grams of sugar in your bloodstream at all times for it to operate optimally. So when you're insulin resistant like that and your sugar level's too high and it starts coming down and you get down too low, that's when hypoglycemia kicks in. So don't take it as, well, I hadn't been diagnosed as a diabetic, so this doesn't affect me. This affects everybody, whether you got a diagnosis or not.
So wouldn't it be cool if there was something to help us fast longer that didn't break our fast? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? That'd be genius, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And that's what this protocol does. I mean, I had to do 3-month blood work every 3 months for my diabetes. And back when I became diagnosed diabetic in 2000, they didn't check A1C at that time. I don't know if they knew about it or just didn't know they could check it, but they never did with me, at least. And once they started doing the A1C, that's when I started doing the 3-month checkups, and every 3 months getting the blood work, so my A1C is. And I was told back then the reason they didn't do it was because people would, for like 6 months, just eat whatever they want, keep their glucose high and do whatever. And they know they have to go see the doctor in a week. So then they watch their diet or whatever for a week and get their glucose down and go in and say, look, I'm doing good. I'm 120. When in all reality, they're not. That's what I was told why they came with the A1C. Whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. But all I know is the A1C is your average over 3 months of how much fatty tissue you have in your bloodstream that attaches to the red cells. And that is what gives you the A1C. So when you get your A1C checked, and if you're, what is it, 5.5 or lower, you're considered normal. And then 5.6 to 6.2 or 6.3, somewhere around there, is pre-diabetic. And then over 6.3 is full-blown type 2 diabetes. So, but in all reality, even if you're pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetic, you're diabetic.
Yep.
It just depends on how bad.
How bad it is. Yep. So we're going to look if we can fast longer. Cool. So if we can fast longer, and if we have something that could help us, because one thing is, guys, if you've been on any kind of diet, whatever it is, I don't care what it is.
Oh, man.
Hunger always wins. Hunger always wins. So if you could have something to help us fast and get past the 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, get us closer to maybe noon or sometimes that before we break our fast, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? It would help us close the window down. It would make it simple to be able to fast. And so then we would have our breakfast as a lunch. I mean, whatever. I mean, that's our first meal when we break our fast.
Have your eggs and hash browns and pancakes then if you really want to.
Exactly.
Just make sure you eat your fiber first.
Exactly. Keep my F's going here, buddy.
Yeah.
So then we have another tea. This is what we're talking about, tea. This is our protocol. And with our meals, we can have our fiber. So we introduce fiber to our own bodies because it got taken out. And just because it got taken out doesn't mean that it's not important. Taken out, if they took it out for profit, not for our health. Think about that for half a second. It's out of there for profit, not for your health. And if we put it back in, that's helping us stay healthier and gets to push the other company away, the other whole industry away, right? And so then we eat our next meal, and then we get to fast. Now, if we can do that and not have the snacks, we get to keep our insulin low during the day. And at night, it's easier. So we're going to talk about that. That's kind of based, the protocol. And our protocol is backed by science. So, if someone says, well, who said it's good? Who said it works? Who said that? They're going like, I read on the internet, rah, 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 or my buddy Jim said, rah, rah, rah. Well, let me tell you who our big boys are. Have you ever heard of the Cleveland Clinic, University of Sydney? These are places that have done over 24 research studies on our protocol.
Well, don't forget the Cleveland Clinic is the #1 heart institute in the world.
Exactly, guys.
The University of Sydney is the people who made the glycemic index. So they're the #1 sugar person in the world.
Exactly. So let's look at this. I tell you, the first thing we always want to say is, well, who says so? Who says so, right? Well, this is where I always say, I double dog dare you. there is a thing called the physician's desk reference. And nowadays, I remember my dad had it on his desk in the clinic. My dad was an OBGYN, but it's called the PDR.net. Write that down, PDR.net, guys. Write it down. And I double dog dare you, if you're on any prescriptions, especially if you're taking shots, I double dog dare you to look up that prescription, those protocols, in the PDR.net. And when you get in there and you start looking down, eventually it says box warning. I call it the black box warning. Why? Because when you get in there and you start reading, it could put you in the black box, your final box. So look up your prescriptions in the PDR.net, and you can look ours up. We'll talk about it, but there's...
All right. That's like metformin in the PDR. There is 3 pages worth of metformin. At least I don't know about the book itself, but at least on PDR.net, which is the digital version on the interweb, you can go there, look up metformin. You'll find 3 pages worth of drugs listed that has metformin. And it'll give you all the side effects, what it's used for, what it causes, what is this, and then give you that black box warning. And like George said, that black box warning means it will kill you. And I took metformin for 25 years. My doctor not once mentioned to me that it could kill me, even though they knew about it because it's in that book.
Exactly. So let's look back at so the PDR is one of our first things to say. Now let's look at the Cleveland Clinic, the #1 heart hospital in the world. What did they say about this protocol that we're taking? It said, and we quote, such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis, people. A population basis, not just 5 or 6 guys in the neighborhood, the population basis, potentially decreasing the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescriptions. Now, who doesn't want you to know that?
Pharmaceutical.
Exactly. Why? Profit.
Well, one thing you got to look at too, the #1 pharmaceutical company in the world is Pfizer, correct? They've been in the business for over 100 years now. And how many things have they cured? I mean, that right there should be your biggest main red flag right there. Like, oh, what's going on?
So now let's look at another study. You know, those continuous glucose monitors, people stick on the back of their arms most of the time. Well, we did a study, and this is kind of like for you engineers out there. We're going to see what we can do to try to make this protocol fail. Yeah, so in this study, we had people wearing the glucose monitors. They had 2 Eggo waffles, 2 tablespoons of syrup, a glass of orange juice, 420 calories, 89 carbs. And when they gave this to it in the study, our protocol, the protocol that John and I are on, and we'll show you evidence on it, lowered the blood glucose by 43%.
And that's the fiber, not the teas, just the fiber.
Yeah, just the fiber. And what does metformin do? 25
to 30%.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So almost doubles what the most popular drug in the world, or not popular, most prescribed drug in the world, one of the most prescribed drugs, and we double what it can do.
And this is on a study with Eggo waffles, syrup, and orange juice, which is all contribute towards increasing your glucose and insulin level.
And John, you were diabetic for 28 years. 25 years. And what if you needed?
Yeah, if I was low, man, I don't know how many times when I was working in the jail, and all of a sudden my CGM would go off saying, hey, low glucose here shortly. You see me just all of a sudden running down the hall to the kitchen, and I go straight right to the drink machine that we have, and it's got either Kool-Aid or juice in it. Because why? Because it's got tons of sugar, and I'm just
spike you right up there like
one
that.
Or two, just hurry and get my levels up. Because I've only had one incident my whole 25 years where my levels got low. My lowest was a 42 on my glucose. And that is the only time I've actually got seriously scared about my health with my sugar levels. Because you get clammy, sweaty, get dizzy. I started getting that tunnel vision. I thought I was about to go into a coma, and luckily I didn't. But if it's never happened to you, and it hasn't happened to you, I hope it never does, because it's a very scary sight.
And so here we're going to talk about another part of our protocol, and that's our Unamate. Now, the Unamate is an amazing thing, and ours right there. Ours is handpicked. Our leaves are handpicked, and they're patented in the process. It's a 5-step process that, well, the net result is, and I'll speed this up a little bit more, but for those of you people that are trying to lose weight and the obesity issue and all of that, you're using something for GLP-1, right? You're synthetically jabbing yourself, and you may be doing great on the scale. But there's some issues. One, I ask you, I beg you, I double dog dare you to go to the PDR.net and look up the warnings on it. 2, look at the advantage. This tea that John just showed you, these little teas, increase your GLP-1, clinically proven, BYU, Dr. Benjamin Bickman, by 60% naturally. I ask you a very simple question. If you could take a synthetic with a black box warning, or you could take a natural with 100% no warnings, no side effects, in the PDR, by the way, and if they were the same price, would you choose? Now, I ask you this. If there were those two qualifications, if one was 500, 1,000, whatever it is, how much you pay for the synthetic, and the other was considerably less, which would you choose?
I know, George, there's people out there paying $300 a month just for their GLP-1 shot. And granted, there's some people there that have great insurance and only paying $75 for a 3-month supply of the GLP-1 shot. So, yeah, you can get it cheaper. You end up paying a lot more too. But the thing is it's a synthetic version of the GLP-1. And the people don't realize that GLP-1 is a natural hormone that your gut makes. It's on itself.
Yeah.
And that's the privilege of these. These help stimulate your gut and make your own GLP-1. That's the reason why we don't have the side effects, because it's a natural product making you produce your own natural hormone.
Exactly. And the other side effects we have. But one of the other negative side effects, guys, of the synthetic ones is that 40% of that scale weight that you lose, 40% of that is lean muscle. So you're proud that your scale said you lost 30 pounds. I congratulate you. Awesome. Wonderful. You lost 12 pounds of muscle, lean muscle. What does muscle do?
You lose the muscle and bone density.
Yeah. And muscle is what burns the glucose. You need muscle to do the burning. Now, if you've lost 12 pounds of muscle and bone, but muscle, and it's proven in all of the studies, tell me how, when you stop taking those shots, and if you've changed and you have not changed your eating or your dietary intake,
change
your lifestyle, tell me how you're going to gain any of that muscle back.
You won't, because you're still stuck in fat burning storage mode, which means your insulin levels are high. So you're burning muscle for energy instead of burning fat. That is known as sarcopenia. I mean, you know that specifically very well, George, because you had that also too. And then that's what a lot of people get mixed up with, because they think if they don't work out, they don't do this, Whatever muscle they have converts into fat. That's where that analogy comes in. It's because what's really happening is your insulin resistance is up here. Your insulin's high, so your body's getting resistant to it. Your body is going to pull energy from wherever it can. If it can't burn fat, it's going to pull from somewhere else. You're going to rob Peter to pay Paul. Is the way your body is. That's how smart your body is. So the only other option it has is it's going to burn or convert muscle into energy, into glucose. Your body uses glucose for energy. It doesn't matter whether it gets it from fat, protein, or carbs. That's the wonderful thing about the glycemic index is, yes, carbs and sugar spike your glucose. 90% of that gets converted into glucose within 1 to 2 hours once you consume it. That's I knew as a diabetic. So that's why I try to stay away from sugar and carbs. What I didn't know was how proteins and fats got converted into glucose. Now, granted, it's a gradual increase. Now, I was always taught that gradual increase was because it's a whole grain or whole wheat toast, whole wheat pasta, and your body took it longer to digest, and that's why you have the gradual increase. No, what it is it's the proteins and fats your body slowly converts into glucose. So like 40% of the protein you eat will get converted into glucose in 4 to 5 hours. Fats, 10% will get converted into glucose in 8 to 9 hours. So right there, that shows you protein and fat you're necessary. You have to have it in order to live. You can convert it into glucose. Carbohydrates is non-essential, like some people say it is. That just shows you right there. And that's from the glycemic index from the University of Sydney.
Exactly. So when I tell you to F off, guys, it's exactly this chart. It's we fast, and then you fiber, and then you have fats. And the order is fats, proteins, and then carbs last. If because they're not really necessary. Your body makes all you need, and the food you eat is going to convert some of it anyway. But you don't purposely have to drink it. You don't purposely have to do that. If you go to the refrigerator, half the time it's because you're bored. If you're constantly grabbing, you get in your car and there's a leftover big cup of whatever you had before, and if it hasn't lost its fizz, maybe I can keep drinking it. And then you got all the little labels and the wrappers and the Skittles. I looked at that. This is insane. I went into the convenience store the other day, and I just started doing some research, and so I grabbed one of those little bags of the orange puffy things. And do you know how many servings in that little bag? 3. I just about freaked out. I've never seen anybody take their 3 and then fold the bag up so they can have it for later. That bag is gone before you got sat down in the car.
And there's 13, if it's the puffs, like the normal puff you're talking about, it's 13 grams of carbs in one little puff.
And scientifically, guys, there's something you can take this to the bank. The manufacturers of those little puffs know exactly how many milliseconds it's going to take for you to dissolve it in your tongue and speed it up, treat it chemically so that it bypasses the idea that you're hungry. How can I prove that to you? Have you ever seen those great big canisters of cheese balls? Right? Those big ones. And it's just like juggling to the mouth, right?
Right.
And in no way.
I was guilty of it.
Right? And you just eat them and eat them and eat them and you're never full. I mean, you just get tired. Your mind doesn't say that's enough. That's enough, John. No, John, no more. Meanwhile, you got 4 more in your hand. Oh, you got to lick it off the fingers, right?
That's the reason why people get non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because your liver's got a great self-defense mechanism towards sugar. Once it gets so much sugar and plugs it up and gets it to a certain storage point, it starts kicking sugar in your bloodstream. It starts kicking sugar somewhere else. But the problem is like high fructose corn syrup in particular. High fructose corn syrup is sweeter than sugar, but yet it bypasses that self-defense mechanism of the liver. And that's why the liver gets plugged up. And that's why kids, 8 years old, 9 years old, are getting non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because they're eating that that high fructose corn syrup in particular between soda pop. I mean, it's in ketchup, it's in your salad dressings. I mean, I never realized it was in ketchup or salad dressings until I started doing this. And when I read that, every time I go out to eat with the family, whatever, and granted, I take my stuff with me, but they're like, we'll go get a burger and fries. And I grab the ketchup because I love ketchup. I look at the back, I'm like, nope, high fructose corn syrup. And I put it back. I'm like, nope, no ketchup for me, and yeah, I mean, I was the same way now with like soda, because before doing this, I used to always do the zero sugar or the diet soda. Now, if I do have a soda, I just drink a regular soda, just because, first of all, it's got the same amount of calories or the same amount of sugar. I mean, granted, it says zero sugar, but there's 260 something different names for sugar now. So some of those added chemicals that they put in there or added fillers, it's just another form of sugar.
Exactly. And one of the things that most people that will see this and don't understand is high fructose corn syrup was developed about 1972, 1973. So most of you have grown up with it.
Right.
Have grown up with it. And if you look at a time scale, if you look at a timetable and look at the increase in type 2 diabetes, the increase of all the metabolic diseases, the increase in Alzheimer's, the increase
just autoimmune diseases and chronic diseases in general since 1972 is increased 7 times fold, if not 10 times. Obesity, also high blood pressure. I can't speak today for some reason, but high blood pressure alone. Because like with myself before this protocol, my average blood pressure was 212 over 120. I don't know how, but I never had a stroke or a heart attack that I'm aware of. And I mean, it doesn't mean I didn't have a mild one, but it was just, I could took it as a chest pain, but thought it was indigestion, because it went away. So I could have had small ones, but I don't know. I never had a major widowmaker, but I never got diagnosed with hypertension. They always told me I was borderline, even though I was 212 over 120 on average, which is way off the chart for blood pressure. But now 5 months on this protocol, the other day, my blood pressure was 139 over 74. That is the lowest it's been ever. And I get people today still, well, 139 is high. Yeah, it's considered high. It's on the border between normal and high, but I'll take 139 where it was 212 5 months ago. So
absolutely. Guys, look, as we're going through this is our really good buddy Andrea. I mean, look, where did this girl go?
She melted away.
Exactly.
If I remember right, she said she was only like 3 pounds away from her goal weight of 110 just the other day.
Yep.
I remember. And Gary there blows my mind, because when I met Gary, I never saw him on the 200-pound side. I've always seen him on the 165, if not a little under now. So when I first saw that picture, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, you were that big. Then Gary's wife, Crystal, she's amazing too. I mean, those two have helped me tremendously a lot on this program. I don't know who that one is. But, we got tons of testimonies here. I mean, look her before and after there. I mean, just a big difference. I mean, you can see right there how much of the lymphatic nodes and all that subcutaneous fat have just melted off of her. You know what I mean? And then Pam, she's down here in Texas. She's killing it too. She's doing awesome. Kim, she's a nurse up there in Fort Worth. And I feel really bad for her right now, because her family's going through a big heartache right now. But she is a pediatric nurse, and she sees these young kids come in her office all the time with childhood diabetes, childhood obesity. Like, they had a little girl there the other day who was 8 years old, and she's 110 pounds. 8 years old at 110 pounds. And it's not because they're lazy or they lack the willpower, or it's just because they don't know this information. And then the mothers and the fathers, but particularly the mothers, they're like, well, my kids don't like sugar. And in all reality, they don't realize that mac and cheese, potatoes, like mashed potatoes, chips, all that kind of stuff, that is a carbohydrate, and carbohydrates get turned into sugar where your body processes it. So And granted, I knew that because of doing being a diabetic. But the thing is they didn't tell me that when I first got diagnosed in 2000. I didn't find out until I came down here to Texas in 2015. So there was 15 years I dealt with this, watching just my sugar, never been able to manage it, and it just slowly kept getting worse. Then you got Dr. Kenny here. This man right here is like our savior. You know, we bow down to him. We do everything we can to him because if it wasn't for this gentleman doing what he did, I know I wouldn't be here. I would be 6 feet under right now, becoming fertilizer for Mother Nature. And I'm not sure. I'm bet George is probably pretty close the same way. But because once you hear George's story, you wonder how he's still alive too, especially being 73 years of age. So
it's true. You said, dude, guys, this is just think about this. Here's Kim and Tony.
Kim and her husband Tony.
Yeah. Great people.
Very great people. And Kim, she wasn't diabetic.
No.
She had 7 different autoimmune diseases, Hashimoto's. I want to say Crohn's. I'm not sure 100%, but she had 7 different autoimmune diseases, and she was underweight. And doing this protocol reversed all those 7 autoimmune diseases she had, started gaining healthy muscle weight. Because that's one thing people don't understand too. Like myself, I lost 60 pounds my first month. And that was all inflammation. That was probably a good majority that could have been inflammation and the visceral fat that stores around your organs. That is not good fat to have. Your subcutaneous fat, the jiggly stuff on the outside, it's not the best to have, but it's better than having that visceral fat. And people don't realize is you got a pound of fat, it's like this big around, but then you get a pound of muscle, it's probably that big around. Muscle weighs more than fat. So that's what we try to tell people when you're on this, because I got it a lot because where I lost a lot of weight, people got mad at me because you lost 60 pounds your first month. I've been on it 2 months and I've only lost 4 pounds. And I'm like, well, but first of all, everybody's body's different. It all depends on your metabolic health, how bad your metabolic health is too. But the thing you got to understand, you get on that scale and the scale lies to you. The scale just tells you the ratio of your body mass versus the gravitational pull of the earth is basically what it is. So when you lose 5 pounds of body fat, but you build 5 pounds of muscle, the scale is going to tell you didn't move. You weighed 200, got down to 195, put 5 pounds of muscle back on, you're back to 200 pounds. But if you would have took body measurements before doing that, you would have seen that your clothes are fitting looser. And that's the best way to measure this. Like myself, I've been a big, heavy boy my whole life. I started out senior year of high school football weighing 237 pounds, and I was 6'1" at that time, I believe. I didn't finally hit 6'3" until I went to college later that year. But by the time college football started, I was up to 320 pounds because I was in that era of linemen have to be big and 300 plus pounds in order to be good players, not realizing that you're putting on bad weight or the wrong type of weight. So I ate between 10 to 15,000 calories a day back then to put the weight on because that's what I was told by coaches to do because they want that big, strong lineman. So when I go to college, I still keep training that way, but I'm not being as active because, I'm trying to hit the books, trying to get that education. Well, the season's over. I didn't get the scholarship to go because they're saving it for the California players or the Texas players, even though I was creaming them in practice in the weight room, but I'm a local boy, not. So I keep eating that way because that's what I was used to eating, but I wasn't training. I wasn't burning it. And that is when my diabetes really kicked in and really stampeded towards that metabolic issue. So by the time me and my wife got married, I was up to 450 pounds. Couldn't tell you what size of pants I wore at that time because I don't remember. All I know is it was in the 40s. It was like 46, 48, something like that. But I've always been, even when I was playing college ball and playing high school ball, I still wore a 38. The 38 was about the lowest I ever wore, even until I was like a little kid. But now doing this protocol, I'm down and fitting in a 36-inch pant waist. So that means I have lost 8 inches off my waist. So don't take this as a weight loss. Take this as looking at getting your metabolical health back where in alignment, your hormones are back in line. Because once your hormones are all back in line, you start detoxing your liver, and your liver starts operating the way it needs to. You get rid of that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and your body just melts the body fat off. And then, like for George, he melted the body fat off, but he was also underweight for like muscle weight and all that. He was underweight. So doing this and fasting, when you fast, you start building HGH. Your body starts producing its own HGH, its own testosterone. And the longer you fast, the bigger the boost it makes. So like, I think it was 17 hours is when it starts doing the regeneration. Then once you hit like 24 hours and then like the 32 hours, that's when it goes like on like 300% increase or a 3,000% increase, something like that. So that's the benefit. If you can make a 36-hour fast and you can keep going, you're doing a complete immune reset. Your whole immunity system resets, your whole gut lining, everything resets, and your health just dramatically improves.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. And then here's Builder Sue. And this is the same baby, guys. This is the same baby. The lady doesn't look the same. They were her family, her children are talking about putting her in a nursing home. This protocol has literally given her life back. She's a great, great girl. She's a lot of fun. This is Dr. Kenny's wife, and she could never fast. She was dealing with PCOS for 20 years.
And if I recall correctly, these pictures are only 2 months apart.
2 months apart, guys. Without protocol.
Well, right there. It says right there, 2 months. Yep. Helps to read, right?
Here's and it's not even, it's all races, guys. This is some Filipino friends. And the one thing is he's 40 pounds lighter. She's 62. Can you imagine? Look at these people. Look at their frames. 62 pounds less. 40. Where was that? I know exactly where it was, but they're no longer diabetic too. Filipinas, women are twice as likely to be diabetic as the Caucasian counterparts. And males, we're 16%. I'm a Filipino male. My dad came over in 47. We're 16% higher probability of type 2, just so you know. And then let's keep going. He was on the call. We talked to him last night, didn't we, John?
Yeah, we did. He's a great guy.
This is Jonathan Scott, 10-year NFL player. Right? 10 years. This is 45 days apart, guys. 45 days apart. Look at that. Natural. The protocol we've been talking about.
And the rheumatoid arthritis he was getting in his hands and joints from playing all those years is gone. And then you have Dr. Natasha. She's a pediatric nurse. Pediatric doctor.
Yep.
Up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And she's killing it. She did a great presentation about how insulin resistance is affecting kids and all this stuff. And she did that was about 2-3 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah. Not sure who these ones are.
This is Doc up in Wisconsin.
Oh, is that Andrina?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. There's me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's me.
The only reason I know that is because of the smile.
There you go. Down 75 pounds, IBS gone. Guys, look at that. That's a whole new person.
And Anne-Marie.
Yep, Anne-Marie. There she is.
I owe a lot to her, too, because if it wasn't for her doing this, Dr. Kenny would never have done this. And if Dr. Kenny would never have done it, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of people that wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this lady. Nurse Patty. She's a monster. Have you heard about her?
Yeah.
Yeah, as much she dropped her triglycerides. I think that was like 1 month or 2 months that her triglycerides dropped that much.
Yeah, from 249 to 77.
Yeah, now she's doing like 30 regular push-ups. Same thing with squats, and then she's a beast when it comes to physical workness. I'm not sure who that is. Oh, who's that guy?
That crazy guy. That 73-year-old's got a 30-inch waist. That's 30 right there, guys.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Kudos to you, brother.
Yep, thanks. There we go. This is suit. Well, I had this suit when I was in 1970. I know that's before you guys were born.
That
But
suit is older than I am, sir.
yeah. So look at this. Look at this little bombastic bugger. Yeah, not bad. Okay, so the protocol works. The protocol works.
Yeah, the protocol, hands down, it works.
So
Now,
we're gonna go real quick. We'll go
that
through real
graph you
quick.
had right there a minute, George.
Huh?
That graph you just had a second there.
Yeah.
It's made by the American Diabetes Society,
Yes.
not the American Diabetes Association. There's a big difference between the two, the ADA and the ADS. You want to follow the ADS if you're a diabetic or know somebody's diabetic, because ADS is trying to do what we are doing, trying to reverse diabetes from the root cause. Where the ADA, they're in favor of keeping people sick. They say they want to cure diabetes, but they don't. They're in favor of pushing pills.
Because they're being sponsored.
Right.
Let's look at it. So, guys, we're going to spend about maybe 10 minutes and we'll be done. I want to talk a little bit about the protocol. It was introduced and created by Rexall. We've already talked about the Cleveland Clinic, the sources. So we've got the clinical proof. Thing we hadn't said is that there are 5 patents, so nobody can make this. This is unique to us. You can't copycat it. This is us. We've got clinical studies. We've shown you some of those. There's over 24 of them. It's safe. It's natural. We showed you that in the PDR. It's guaranteed. Think about this. We know it works. How do we know? We are so convinced that we know that it works that the company gives you a 90-day money-back guarantee. Why? Right. Because we know if you follow the protocol, we can prove with your blood work, your own blood work with your own doctor, that it works. The only way it doesn't work is with people don't ever take them out of the box. We've even find people that use it backwards, sideways, whatever, and by God, it still works. And I would tell you that I was kind of sort of skeptical a little bit. I mean, it said 90-day money back guarantee, so I had day 88 marked on my calendar, so it gave me 2 days to cancel. I was on it for less than there was no way I was ever going to cancel it. And it's cost neutral. We'll talk about that in a second. And now we need to update this because we're in 63 countries.
Correct. Actually, that's growing too. I heard they're working in like 4 or 5 other ones that might be going into real shortly.
Exactly.
So we're growing.
Yep. And so here's a little bit of our history: is that it's over 100 years. This isn't out of somebody's garage or somebody got an idea and is copycatting and the other kinds of things. They're not the fake anythings. So this has been around out of the Rexall drug in 1990. BIOS was started. And so we've been around for a while. It's been patented for a while. It's been proven for a while. And people go like, well, then it should be on the stores and I should be able to know where it's at. And like, yeah, nice idea, Chester. The whole thing is that if you've been in a store lately and got
they tried that back in the 90s, but they got pushed out because that's when metformin got released and everybody got on the big metformin trend and pushed it, and they got pushed out of the stores.
Yeah.
That and plus not being in the stores keeps the cost down, so it's not as expensive either.
Exactly. And so in 2001, when Unicity was born, and then the biggest distributor who saw the value in the company and the products bought it. So we're privately held. Important. We're privately held. And we have no debt. For those of you that have been in any kind of company that was leveraged or sold out and all those kinds of things, this ain't going nowhere because they know what they have. And he is a distributor and understands the value of people. And so going fast forward, we have the Feel Great system in 2021. That's how we are. And we are debt free. We have research facilities in two countries. We have manufacturing facilities in 5. We control our own ingredients. It's our name on the label, our stuff going in. Our products are controlled by us. we're third party tested, and we constantly are shaping up and doing more tests and creating more products. But the guys, that's where our value comes into play. I talked about the tea, how it increases the GLP-1 naturally. The process of even the tea is patented. It's patented. It's protected. You can go buy yerba mate or whatever in canisters like the Monsters type of thing like that. Yep. Turn the label around and read the amount of stuff. That's a nice word I can say. The ingredients, the amount of sugar and all that kind of stuff that's in there. Not even close.
Almost 30 grams of carbohydrates and 30 grams of added sugar.
Exactly. Perfect. So then we have fiber. So we have two things to drink. And the one is, again, it's patented. There's 4 patents. We have 5 total patents on 2 drinks. How simple is that? How simple? Could you drink 3 times in a day?
Easy.
Easy.
So, as Jonathan Scott says, so dumb easy.
It's dumb easy. And again, so we got the proof behind it. We talked about this earlier and what the balance can do in terms of glucose. All right. So is there a need? I believe we've established there's a need. Is the need increasing? I believe we've established that. Is there a solution? Yes, we've proven that there's a natural solution with no side effects, verifiable in the PDR versus synthetics for all those things. Is it proven? We've given you that. Is there a guarantee? 100%. And is it affordable? Yeah, I would say absolutely 100% it's affordable. Even if it wasn't, let's just say, how much do you spend on snacks in a day? How many snacks? How many sodas? How many coffees? How many drinks? How many M&Ms? How many Death Valley granola bars? How many donuts? What do you spend on your breakfast? If you didn't have all those snacks and you missed a meal, most Americans can afford $5 a day if they didn't have those expenses.
So, George, when me and my wife were commuting to our old jobs over the next city over, it was 35-minute drive every day, 26 miles from my house to where I worked, and it was like 28 to where my wife worked. But we'd stop at Chick-fil-A on the way out and get breakfast. She'd get a large Dr. Pepper, and she'd get the chicken biscuits. I would get the scrambled bowls, but I get 2 of them. Just that every day cost us $20. One day of stopping and getting that is 4 days worth of this product.
Wow.
And I didn't realize that at first.
Right. Started doing the accounting and it came right there. So guys, we got 5 patents, clinical studies, safe and natural, guaranteed, cost neutral. Why? Because if we skip those meals and those snacks, so how does this work? How's the protocol work? Well, it works great. Oh, you want to know why you use it? Okay. When you're not eating, you're drinking a tea. First thing you do is you have a tea, and I like mine warm. And you have the Unamate tea. That fasts and satiates you until you're ready to break your fast, which sometimes you forget to eat, but not in the afternoon, so you break your fast. And then you have another one, and you don't have any crashes. Guys, we've already showed you how this stabilizes everything. And then before your biggest meal, and I usually have one before each meal, you have the fiber. You just introduce fiber back into your life. So you're fasting, you have the drinks to support you. It's very, very simple. It's dumb simple. So here's kind of summation it up. What this does, what the protocol does, is it targets insulin resistance directly. It reverses the cause, not just the symptoms. Remember those dandelions? We're getting down to the root. Better insulin resistance, better insulin reaction, and we're not masking the fire alarm. Guys, what this is that the analogy is this. If your house is on fire and the alarm system is burnt, beep, 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 obnoxious like me, right? And it's going, what does the drug company tell you to do? They don't tell you to call the fire department. They tell you to turn off the alarm.
Right.
Oh, gosh, we're fine. The house is still burning, but the sound is gone.
And then they tell you that what's causing it is the firemen.
Yeah, because the firemen cause it because they show up. Every time I see a fire, the firemen are there. Must be the firemen causing it. So then what else? How's this? Now we're talking about the pharmaceutical world. Well, patient empowerment. Meds tell you that you're broken and take this forever. And not only you're broken, it tells you where you're broken. You have high blood pressure. You are type 2 diabetes. You have Alzheimer's. You have fatty liver. You have PCOS. You have ED. You have sarcopenia. It tells you where your issue is. And we, by the way, we have a pill or a shot or a yum-yum for you. And so what this protocol does is gives you confidence, not dependency. It helps you deal with hungry by helping you stay satiated longer, and allows you to F off. It allows you to fast longer. It allows you to have fiber. It allows you to have fats. It allows you to have an order of food that makes sense, empowers you. And we don't ask you to eat some special diet and eliminate this and do that. No, you kind of, I had pizza the other day. I know John loves cheeseburgers.
Yeah, you don't restrict your calories either. We don't count calories. There's no reason to.
Exactly. And so what this does is it helps make your lifestyle change different. Why would you drug a lifestyle disease, which is really what this is? It's a lifestyle. So it promotes sustainable habits. It encourages fiber. It delay eating, F&F, right? Which helps lower insulin. It keeps our cravings lower. And it's a simple daily structure. So the great system advantage is that it's designed to work with your biology, not in contrast, not to cause. I mean, how many people take one drug because they have to have another drug, which took care of this drug? This increases your insulin sensitivity. It regulates your appetite. It has natural hormone imbalances. So why it works, guys, in conclusion, is that it's natural, it's effective. We get to the root cause. It's real change. It's adaptable and simple. Now, John has a code, and you can see it right on his screen. Rolling across is the whole thing, but John has his own code. And I'm going to have John go about 5 minutes and tell us about his story, and then I'll tell you my story, and we'll be done for the day. How's that, John?
Sounds good, brother. So if you're just coming on this live and all this, or if you've been watching this and you know who we are, I'm John. I've been a type 2 diabetic. I suffered with type 2 diabetes for 25 years. During that 25-year time, I did everything the doctors asked me to do. You'll take these pills, take these shots, eat less, exercise more, eat these diabetic-friendly foods, eat these diabetic special foods, all that kind of stuff. But back when I got diagnosed, and I was just finishing playing college ball, I was just barely married my wife, starting our family, and my weight just kept getting worse. My diabetes started getting worse. So they told me to be more active. So I ended up becoming a professional wrestler on the local circuit back in Utah. And I'm like, what better thing to do than, busting my butt in the squared circle, constantly moving, flipping, all that stuff. And I never got better. My disease got worse. And even though I was watching the sugar intake, taking these pills, taking these shots, doing what they said. So I started talking to dietitians and nutritionists. They told me you're eating too many carbs. So they cut it back to 100 grams of carbs a day. So even though now what I know now, look back at that, I'm like, no wonder why I became diabetic. But I did that. It never improved. I ended up moving down here to Texas because my job brought me down here. I ended up getting a new endocrinologist. My endocrinologist was a type 1 diabetic, and he gave me on a better path. He's like, quit that garbage you told about eating sugar. Ignore that. Watch your carb intake instead. I'm like, okay, so what's a good carbs? And then that's when I started talking to nutritionists more about what's a good carb, what's a simple carb, not realizing that even though these complex carbs, they're better for you, yes, but they still raise your glucose. They still spike your insulin. So yeah, my numbers improved by watching my carbs, but I was still eating too often because you're always told eat 3 meals a day, snacks in between, all that to keep your metabolism up. Because if you keep your metabolism up, you're going to be burning that body fat. When all reality, all you're doing is storing body fat. But I kept doing this, and my diabetes keeps getting worse. I'm getting older, and every other little problem I'm getting told by my doctors and all this. It's because I'm getting older. That there's nothing you can do about it. It's called aging. I'm like, how's aging causing my diabetes getting worse? How is it causing my high blood pressure? How is it causing my joint pains? How is it causing, my neuropathy, ED, I mean, you name it, what's associated with the insulin resistance. I pretty much had it. But what really got me looking in the rabbit hole for my diabetes is when I had my first foot ulcer, because I'm doing everything the doctors asked me to do, this, and this. But I'm just getting so much worse. I ended up getting my first foot ulcer because my neuropathy is getting worse. At that time, my neuropathy was above my ankle. I couldn't feel nothing from my ankle down on either foot. So I got my first foot ulcer when I was in the police academy, going through the police academy. Started seeing the doctor, started getting that taken care of. I spent 6 months at that time with my podiatrist, trying to figure out how to get it to heal. And he was going the wrong way. Unfortunately, it's not his fault. It was his. That's how he was taught. So he realized it wasn't for him, referred me to a wound specialist. And that's why I went to my current podiatrist and I saw him. And this was 6 years ago. I started seeing him, and it was a night and day difference between the treatment the other guy did and he did. But it still took me 18 months past that point to get it to heal. And I had 2 PICC lines on my left arm with IV antibiotics and all that to get rid of the infection, because that's how bad it was. Well, I finally got it healed. 2 years go by. I was down here in Texas, not paying attention to, it's the middle of July, so it's hot outside. And I thought I was on the cool part of the pool, and I wasn't. And I ended up burning the bottom of my feet. Wow. And when I burned the feet, it caused 2 blisters. And of course, when that one on my one foot popped, it re-aggravated the foot ulcer, and we're all right back in this thing again. Well, I'm fighting this one, and it came back with a vengeance. So I'm fighting this one, and it ends up getting worse and worse. I have to go in for surgery on December of 2023, and they can do a debridement surgery. Now, if you go to my TikTok profile, you can find one of my pinned videos is about that surgery to show you how fast it can get and how bad it can be. But I had the surgery, luckily no amputations at that time. And then they, sewed it up and they healed. Well, July of 2024, it came back. It didn't completely all the way heal. It was getting really close to being healed. And then it came right back and had to get a second surgery. And then when I went in the second time, that's when they're looking to see if there's any infection in the bone or if there's any deterioration of the bones and stuff like that. Luckily, there wasn't, but I had to fight 4 infectious disease doctors to keep them from amputating my foot. Luckily, my podiatrist was on my side. He's the head podiatrist for the hospital I was at, so he had a surgeon below him. Luckily, she's the one that performed both surgeries. She was on my side with them, fighting to keep my foot, and because they really felt like they could save it, and they did. I mean, hands down, they did. So I'm not bashing doctors. I'm not that, because 2 really good ones saved my foot. And there was 4 other ones I had to fight because they wanted to pull it because they were afraid of the infection and all that. But that was their specialty. They're infectious disease doctors. That's all they deal with. So as I'm sitting here at the house recovering from that, it was almost healed again. And I noticed another blood blister. And we noticed there was a little bit of redness to my foot. So we went straight to my podiatrist. He was able to get in and see him that day. And he noticed that there was a fluid pocket underneath that one blood blister. So he cut my foot open to drain it. And when he cut it, he had to take a bit hole off the skin about that big around on the ball of my foot. No meat, just the top layers of skin. So the flesh was exposed. Just that epidermis layer was gone. That is when I'm here at the house. And that was December 30th of 2024. I'm sitting here at the house watching TV and just, in between commercials, scrolling on TikTok, when I came across this protocol. Now, I've seen a couple times where Yvette was talking about it through TikTok, and I watched a little bit, but I wasn't really too, because she's very blunt. She's very passionate about it, but I just didn't have that connection. But I kind of knew about it. And so when I came across Dr. Kenny that day, and he was talking about it, for some reason, I just had that connection. I stayed and listened and watched his presentation. And, I watched it a couple times after that. But that last one, when he said, "Hey, it's now HSA FSA certified," that's when I jumped on, because being law enforcement, I didn't have that much extra money. A very tight budget with a family of four kids and my wife, and I knew how much this was 160 a month. I knew that was pricey. I know it was pricey because I couldn't pay for it, and I wanted to do it, but I couldn't figure out how to manage to do it until that HSA FSA came in. I used that and got the protocol. Started the protocol on January 12th. By February 4th of 2025, so not even a month, my foot was healed. Skin all closed up, no marks, no nothing. I could walk, everything. I went and saw my podiatrist that day, and he's like, "You're healed. You can go back to work if you want." And I'm like, "Well, let's think about this, doc, because I still got 3 weeks left of FMLA." I said, "In the past, we've got to where it was healed. We go back to work, and 2-3 weeks later, it's broke back open or something else has happened, and we're right back in this boat. So what if I stay home the next 3 weeks just to make sure it stays healed? I'll be walking at home, just not out and about, but at home I'll still be walking." So yeah, he agreed. We did that. I went back and saw him on February 26th. Foot stayed healed, no issues, none of that. So he cleared me to go back to work. By this time, I've been on the product for almost 2 months. First month doing this, I reversed my diabetes, lost 60 pounds of body fat. Blood pressure was dropping, was normalized. It was still a little high, but coming down. The joint pains were gone. You name it. I felt like I was 20 years old again, all that kind of stuff. And that's another thing too, I was told by doctors, because of my diabetes being the way it was, and with the ED that I had, that there was nothing they could do. I tried all the yums that they prescribed for that, and then it didn't work. I get this taken care of, and all of a sudden it's, I'm not going to go into further detail because you can pretty much picture the picture.
Happy day.
Right, exactly. So I keep doing this protocol because it is the only thing in 25 years I did that actually took care of the problem. It didn't just put a mask and hide the symptoms. It took care of the problem. So now if you look at it, 8 more days will be 5 months exactly that I've been on it. So I'm a week under 5 months, and I'm down 80 pounds now. I'm no longer in any medications for anything. I stopped my diabetic meds after that first month when I got cleared to go start walking again. I stopped all my meds at that time because I didn't even go to my doctor. I was just like, no, I'm not doing this, because my blood sugars were stabilized between 77 and 90. And then I took my one pill to bring my glucose down because I'm still prescribed by the doctor. I took it and I started dropping below 77. I was like, no, if I can manage it without it, I'm not taking it. So right then and there, I stopped my medication, not because I don't like doctors. I just stopped because I didn't want to go see my doctor, because I didn't want to get talked out of not doing this anymore. And because one thing I forgot to mention, when I was on this for a week, I went and saw my endocrinologist, and they took my blood work 2 days before I started this protocol. And I went back 5 days. I was on this protocol for 5 days, but I went back and talked to them about that blood work. At that time, my A1C was a 9.4. My triglycerides were a 225. My HDL was only a 38. So knowing what I know now about the insulin resistant, where you take your triglycerides and divide it by your HDL, I was in a 6.4. I never knew that until I started doing this. My doctor at that time didn't know. But I talked to her about this. She even looked it up in the PDR. She's like, oh, I'll look into this. And she goes, let's push your next appointment with me until July. We'll come back in July and we'll see how this is doing for you. Well, I ain't going to be seeing her in July because they called me last month and canceled my appointment.
They canceled the appointment.
They called me and canceled my appointment for July. The excuse they gave me was she's no longer working there anymore. But the thing is she's a very smart lady. She's a very, very intelligent lady. I'm wondering if she got wind of this when I went in with her and she looked into it, and now maybe she switched and she's doing this versus doing standard medical care. I hope that's the reason why. I really do. But I don't know. But I don't want to know. All I know is I'm in a better place now.
There you are. So let me ask you a question, John. How's it changed your life?
It has done a complete 180 in my life. I'm a very skeptical person when it comes to sounds too good to be true. And I really believe this sounded too good to be true. Even my story, I still get from people today telling me my story sounds too good to be true. And well, I'm sorry to tell you, it's legit. Um, like I said, it completely changed my life 180. I got my health back. I got my family life back. Not realizing because of the brain fog and all that, having that disease and all that controlling you, losing it towards Alzheimer's and the first stages of dementia, not realizing I was pushing my family away. And, you know, I look back on it now because I got that mental clarity. And yeah, I was a jerk. I was a big a-hole to my family, not realizing it. And honestly, that is the only regret I have by doing this protocol. And that's not a bad regret because it's bringing back those memories. It's bringing back, and yeah, it's a bad memory, but you can't heal if you don't know about it. And it does bring the bad memories, yes. But the thing is my family forgives me for it. My wife will forgive me for it. And we're making ends meet and we're reuniting each other. We're bringing that family back to where it needs to be. And it's all because of this protocol.
I know she said that. I know that she said with tears, I got my
Yeah, every chance she has that she's talking to people about this, she's always in tears over it because she thought she lost me. Because I didn't realize when I was over there waiting for my foot to heal how bad my health was really getting, and I was on the verge of going septic. I didn't see it. You don't feel it. You don't. And granted, she didn't say nothing because she was afraid to. If she did, I would probably turn around and bark and bite her head off for some stupid little thing. And did I do it on purpose? No, it's because that's just how bad your mental state gets from this. And that, like I said, that is the only regret I have for doing this is because it brought back bad memories. Yes, but I need that bad memory in order to heal what I did. I'm not going to get over it. I'm not going to get over it if I didn't know about it, and I need to know. So please don't take it as me saying it's a bad thing, but I just have to get that out there because I don't want you to be misled thinking that this is an all miracle cure, because some people have taken this and they don't get the results they see right away. They did the 90 days and they didn't get what they wanted, so they stop. And they stop doing it and they go back to their old habits and they just get worse. And then they realize and then they come back on it and they start improving again. So
it's true because food got one of the things my thing is that food got us into this mess. Food will get us out of this mess. And how many years, how many decades did it take to get you where you were?
Right.
And we have a 90-day money back guarantee, and we know it's going to work. Now, if you want to weigh 0 pounds, you can do that. Just get a hold of Elon Musk and take his rocket and go run around on the moon. You can be 0. Woohoo!
Right.
You can be 0.
Or just go sit in the pool for a while and see how long.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, the pool will be good. But the idea, ladies and gentlemen, we just wanted to share with you today a little bit of information, a lot of information, our hearts, and we have hundreds of friends that are sharing this story, and we want to be able to share our story. Now, John's got a link right there that you can take advantage of, and the protocol works. You know, it's right there. You can order from John, easy as pie, and it's so simple. It's the one thing about it is that it's simple and it's sustainable. And because it's simple, it's easy and sustainable, it makes it work. It makes it go easy. When you don't have to change your diet. We just add a little fast. We already talked that we're going to have you F off, right? You're going to fast longer. You're going to add some fiber. And then you have your fats first, and then the order of your food. So we want to thank you for sharing with us. We'll be back another time with you. We like it. We want to help you. And we're here to try to help and explain things to people from a true standpoint, because you're being bombarded by the food industry. You're being bombarded by the pharmaceutical industry, the media. Every place you look at, they're trying to keep you down. They do not want you. Think about this. If you changed your diet such that you refused to eat some of those types of highly palpable, highly processed, engineered foods designed to trick your mind so that it's highly addictive, and if you can bypass the pharmaceuticals that you know people that are taking them every day until they die,
Right.
if you could bypass those two things, how much healthier would you be? How much healthier will your family be? How much happier would you be? How much happier will your family be? And think about this. If you were smart enough to create this product and this protocol, and you had the ability, who would you go back in time and save? Who would you go back and say, listen, do this, and be able to help turn the clock health-wise, and they'd still be with you today. Guys, this is for you now to build your legacy with your family and prevent those things from reoccurring. So we want to thank you for your time. We've got an opportunity call later. If you'd like to learn more, just drop us a line. You can find John everywhere. He's on Facebook and he's on TikTok, and he does some great TikToks. We do TikTok lives. We do things together. John's become a great friend. Thanks. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. If you have any questions, just DM us.
Appreciate it, brother.
You betcha. All right. Tap that.